Well, I hate to break it to you, but it's another day and some more 49ers injury news. Dre Greenlaw out 4 to 6 weeks. He is having surgery on the groin that he injured against the Lions in week one. So I think that we've finally reached the end of the season opener casualty list for the 49ers. And for the starters, at least, it goes like this: Jason Verrett, torn ACL, done for the season. That hurts the cornerback room. Raheem Mostert, chipped cartilage in his knee, also done for the season after he elected to have a real cleanup procedure on the knee. That hurts the running back room. And Dre Greenlaw, with this groin procedure, will miss those 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously not a season-ending injury, but it is, again, an injury to a starting player for the 49ers entering week two. Now, week two may give some of you PTSD because it was that week last season in 2020 when the 49ers really went through injury hell at MetLife Field in New York. That was the game in which Nick Bosa was lost, Solomon Thomas was lost. Both of those were for the season. Jimmy Garoppolo, high ankle sprain. That obviously compromised his entire year, even though he tried to come back from it. And I think that even Raheem Mostert was hurt in week two for the 49ers against the Jets last year. So the good news is, as the 49ers move to play the Eagles in week two this year, the Eagles actually play on natural grass, not on our artificial turf, which has been documented to have a higher injury rate than natural grass. So credit to the Eagles and their ownership for making sure that they have a proper playing surface. But the bad news is that the 49ers already have suffered their share of injuries in week one. Nobody can definitively say if they were because of the artificial turf in Ford Field, but here the 49ers are having to lick their wounds and deal with some issues. Above me right now, or just to my left, is my article for The Athletic yesterday talking about the 49ers defense and their need to improve gap integrity against the run. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, we are going to analyze the impact of Dre Greenlaw's injury. So here is the depth chart. Here's the linebacker position. I've zoomed in on it, and I can make it even bigger for you right now. Fred Warner, your Mike linebacker. Dre Greenlaw was your weak side linebacker. And Azeez Al-Shaair was your starting Sam strong side linebacker. So we know enough now because Matt Barrows reported the Dre Greenlaw injury. Obviously, the Athletics reporter is a very trusted source. So we can go ahead and put Dre Greenlaw on injured reserve. So I'm going to go ahead and cut Dre Greenlaw's name here, and we're going to move him to IR down here. Now, obviously, Dre Greenlaw will have an asterisk. That means he's eligible for 2021 return. Okay, back up here, Dre's name should be gone. It indeed is. So who moves over into that second linebacker spot? Well, it will be Azeez Al-Shaair. And those of you who are Excel nerds will be happy that I'll do the paste special to move Azeez up there. So there he is. We can remove, actually, we'll take Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles from here, and we'll run another paste special to put him in there and take him out of here. My count formula is a little messed up, so I'll fix that. You guys can see how the Excel works right away. This count should take up both of those, and this count should pick up this row. Boom, we got it. And the 49ers are currently at 52 players, as you can see right here through my count on the 53-man roster. But the linebacker position looks like this: Warner, Al-Shaair, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, with Marcel Harris being the 49ers' depth at the position. Obviously, Nate Jerry on the practice squad actually also counts as depth of the position. So we'll see how the 49ers fill out that 53rd and final roster spot once Dre Greenlaw is officially on injured reserve. Will they call up Nate Jerry? Maybe. I mean, let's see what they did at running back and at cornerback after the Mostert and Verrett injuries. At the running back position, if we scroll up here, the 49ers made a couple of moves. They picked up Trenton Cannon, fast guy. Maybe he'll be able to return kicks off of waivers from Baltimore. And they also signed Kerryon Johnson, former second-round pick of the Detroit Lions, to the practice squad. So losing Raheem Mostert triggered the 49ers into two additions at the running back position. And then down at cornerback, the 49ers have been very aggressive in loading up the room following the Verrett injury. Obviously, they preemptively had Josh Norman on the roster from a week before, but they promoted Dante Johnson to the practice squad, and they signed Dre Kirkpatrick. They did all this without dropping anybody off of the team. So as you can see, the 49ers now have 7 cornerbacks, which is more than the initial 6 that they had on the 53-man roster. So it makes me think that they'll do something with this final roster spot now that Greenlaw is now on injured reserve to fill out the linebacker room. That might be calling Nate Jerry up from the practice squad and signing somebody else there, or it might be bringing in an actual veteran linebacker straight to the 53. If it's Jerry, it'll be interesting because Nate Jerry was actually with Philadelphia before the 49ers. And you remember last season, this won't be a flattering look for Nate Jerry, but remember last season when Nick Mullins badly missed a wide open Kyle Juszczyk on a play that probably would have won the 49ers the game in retrospect, given how that all went? Well, Nate Jerry was the closest man in coverage to Kyle Juszczyk, and I get it. He wasn't close at all, and Nate Jerry was bad in pass coverage for Philadelphia. But it turns out that he was dealing with some injury issues then, and I think he's much healthier now because the guy can move. He's another fleet-of-foot linebacker that the 49ers obviously like enough to have on their practice squad. So we'll see what they do with Nate Jerry. Maybe he does get called up here against his former team, maybe not, but just kind of a funny coincidence connecting it to last season. I'm going to have a dedicated 49ers-Eagles preview show, so don't worry. We're going to get into the matchup, which I think is a fascinating one. What you do need to know is that Philadelphia is very good along both lines. We already knew from last season and in 2017 when the 49ers played them that they were stout up front. They've got some big names up front. Brandon Graham is up there. Fletcher Cox is up there. I mean, these are all guys that were with the Eagles back when Mike McGlinchey was in grade school, in middle school, before high school in suburban Philadelphia. So Mike McGlinchey remembers watching these guys play and cheering them on as an Eagles fan growing up. McGlinchey, by the way, is going to be buying about 100 cheesesteaks for the 49ers travel party when they arrive in Philadelphia, I believe late Friday. They're going to be moving over from West Virginia to the Philadelphia area. So Mike's super proud of the Philadelphia origins, and he is going to make sure that everybody eats a nice cheesesteak from D'Alessandro's. That's the place he swears by. He's not a tourist. He's not going to go to Pat's or Geno's. So I guess that's the food component of this week's preview. Last week it was the Coney Island dogs, right? The Coney dogs from Detroit. They have the 2 places right next to each other in downtown. For Philly, it's obviously going to be the cheesesteak. And then in week 3, 49ers go back home. So we can start talking San Francisco Mission-style burritos again. Maybe I could even do an episode based on that. But anyway, as far as the 49ers and preparing this week for the Eagles and how it relates to Dre Greenlaw, this is the article I wrote yesterday, and I will include the link in the comment section. 49ers defense has gap integrity in mind as it prepares for a new challenge against the Eagles. Let's just put it this way. The Philadelphia Eagles run a completely different offense than the Detroit Lions challenged the 49ers with. The Eagles are going to spread you out. They're not going to be under center. They're going to not run play action. It's going to be a lot of read option stuff from the shotgun to Jalen Hurts. And unlike Jared Goff, a super immobile quarterback of the Lions, Jalen Hurts is a quarterback who's going to run for the Eagles. He had 7 carries for 62 yards last week with Jalen Reagor on the outside, Devontae Smith on the outside. I mean, those are 2 players that the Eagles just want to, they have athletes. They want to get the ball to them in space. The Lions didn't have that luxury last week. So their strategy was to run right up the gut against the 49ers, against the wide 9. We've already talked about how the 49ers might be susceptible to that. And it worked for the Lions early on before they had to abandon the run game because the 49ers offense proved to be its best defense and gave the team a big lead. I think Detroit only ran like 9 times in the second half. Running straight up the middle, especially at a defense that didn't feature Javon Kinlaw, who, by the way, was back at practice for the 49ers today in a limited fashion. But because the defensive tackle situation was so sketchy for the 49ers, I could even show you here. You could see in this picture. Maybe you could even zoom in on this. Yes, I can. Good stuff. Take a look at this play of the Lions running up the middle and succeeding. This is just a still shot, but you can see my cursor there. That's Zach Kerr, 92, 49ers defensive tackle. Zach Kerr was lined up on the opposite side of the ball, right here where my cursor is. And you could see Jonah Jackson, the Detroit guard, just putting him on skates. He moved him from right here to right here. You also see Kevin Givens eliminated from the play. And because of that, there's a hole up front. Now, that hole wouldn't be there if Dre Greenlaw, who's right here, fired into the correct gap if Dre Greenlaw was on assignment. But instead, Dre Greenlaw went to the wrong side of the All-Pro center, or the Pro Bowl center here, Frank Ragnow, and then gets pushed and vacuumed into Fred Warner. You should never have both of your linebackers in the same gap. And because of that, Jamal Williams has a wide open hole, and you could see that Jimmy Ward, number 1, is the last line of defense. That was the big problem for the 49ers, if there was one defensively, before the very end of the game, obviously. But for 55-plus minutes, 49ers are very good defensively. The defensive ends played really well. The pass rush was there. I thought they got good safety play. I thought they got good corner play in that game. And I'm not talking about the fluky last few minutes. We're talking real football here. We're talking the first 55-plus, while the 49ers had all the starters in. And the one weakness was exactly this. Detroit did this a number of times, gashing them right up the middle. And Fred Warner was unhappy with Dre Greenlaw after this play, did not think that he was mentally where he should be with the right gap integrity. So gap integrity is the theme for the 49ers against the Eagles, because the Eagles, trust me, even though they run a different scheme, they will try to gash the 49ers right up the middle if they see the same potential weakness. And guess what? Dre Greenlaw is now out. So even though Dre Greenlaw might have been able to fix some of the mistakes that he made in this prior game as far as that gap integrity, the 49ers are going to have a new linebacker in his spot, and Azeez Al-Shaair. They're probably going to have Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles playing a little bit. You bet the Eagles are going to try to test the 49ers gap integrity, because if they can run up the middle, the 49ers pass rush can't focus on getting after Jalen Hurts. I mean, you play the game on your terms if you can run the ball. That's why the 49ers run over half the time. It's such a big deal for Shanahan to run, because he wants to play the game on his terms. He wants to take the steam out of opposing pass rushes. The Eagles are going to try to do that to the 49ers in this game. And it's going to be up to Fred Warner. It's going to be up to Azeez Al-Shaair, and it's going to be up to Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles and maybe Marcel Harris if he plays, to not let them do that. They're going to have to maintain great gap integrity and also cover some really good Philadelphia tight ends and Dallas Goedert and maybe even Zach Ertz. I think he'll be questionable, but you got to assume he's going to play. And that makes it hard, because you don't know if those guys are going to be blocking or if they're going to be running pass patterns. And as a linebacker, if they're running pass patterns, you have to cover them. But the good news for the 49ers is that I thought Azeez Al-Shaair played his most confident career game at linebacker against Detroit. And that's going to be huge if the 49ers intend to properly replace Dre Greenlaw, who is their best tackler. So no matter how many poor run fits Dre Greenlaw had in this previous game, he still had some impressive tackles for the 49ers. And Azeez Al-Shaair took a page out of his book. He was good. He made a key tackle late there. I think it was against Hawkinson to help save the game for the Niners. But Al-Shaair is going to have to step up and shine in a much larger role. The tight ends are going to be put under a lot of stress in a game like this, with Hurts running, with the ball being distributed into space, and with 2 quality tight ends for the Eagles. So the linebackers for the 49ers, I don't know if I said tight ends earlier, but the linebackers are going to be put under a lot of stress in this game. And it's going to be extremely important for backups like Al-Shaair, like Flanagan-Fowles, to deliver for the 49ers. And hey, because of the speed on the field, maybe this is the game that Marcel Harris's position switch from safety to linebacker really pays off for the 49ers, because you look at a team like the Eagles, they try to stretch stuff up. They try to stretch stuff out. It's a very college-style offense. And when you deal with a college-style offense, you want that fast linebacker core. And that's why Marcel Harris moved positions. 49ers thought that he was a liability in coverage at safety, but they love that hitting ability and that speed at linebacker, and they know you need it to go sideline to sideline. So maybe this is a game that he contributes, especially with Greenlaw out. All right, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a big kind of breakdown of the 49ers and Eagles. This is going to be a tough game for the 49ers, much harder than week 1 against the Lions, where they generally rolled throughout the course of that entire contest. Going to be tougher, so follow this channel. But we're going to come back with your 49ers Eagles preview and a hell of a lot more content. Guess what? I'm going to start having guests on pretty soon. So hold your breath for that. They're going to be coming. And as long as you subscribe, more good content is going to flow. All right, everybody, take care.